Freezy2324, who says, "Do you think Luke Skywalker will be heavily involved in Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie?" That's one of the big questions. Is
Hmm.
not just Luke Skywalker, but I mean, Luke comes to mind obviously because he's already been in Mandalorian stuff. But Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Han Solo, those are the main characters of Heir to the Empire, the books. Lando Calrissian plays a role. Wedge Antilles plays a role. All the original characters play a role. C-3PO and R2-D2. So how are they going to utilize those characters, and what are they going to be doing during that time period? Luke has the best excuse for not being there just because he's actively during this time in canon setting up the Jedi Order, his Jedi Order. So he's at least doing something, but it still would not make any sense for the biggest hero in the galaxy not to show up to help in a massive conflict if it is indeed as big as they're trying to sell it to be the Thrawn threat. So I think he's got to be there now. Will he be a big character? Will he be heavily involved in Dave's movie? I tend to think not, unless they decide to go for a recast. I really just don't buy the fact that CGI Luke, deepfake Luke, is going to be the main character of a big budget movie. Maybe they can prove me wrong, but I just don't see him being anywhere near heavily involved. Will he be there? Yes. He will be there, whether it's recast or deepfake CGI. I think there will be that Avengers style scene of most of the big heroes teaming up, or most of the people talking around a table for tactics and stuff like that. So I would be shocked if Luke does not appear, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's not in a big role. Disappointing, yes. Could they just finally rip the Band-Aid off and give us a chance to have a true Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, and Han Solo in the post Return of the Jedi timeline? They could. There will be backlash. There always will be, but if they do it right, doesn't matter how much backlash there is. If they do it right, people will get over it, because I think more than anything, we're starving for those characters, and
Yeah.
I really would like to see them. So as much as I think it would be more serviceable to the characters to just have their stories done in books like they used to be, it would allow you to do big things, cool things, epic things, important things for those characters. If the important stories for Disney are to be told in live action, then you need them involved in live action at some point.
Nothing more I can add to that other than maybe if it does happen, it's gonna be more like a third act for me. I think that's the right time to bring him in, and because there's rumors that like Mandalorian Grogu might start with Ezra, kind of like kicking things off. There's some things that were floating out there. So, and the fact that Mandalorian Grogu, based on its success, could get like a sequel, and then you make this its own sort of trilogy or something like that, and then this Heir to the Empire, New Republic closer can kind of then feature Luke there, and then maybe the second film is Ahsoka Leia or something. Like there's a lot of different angles you can really approach this by, and really depend on the first film being a big success, right? Or being the smart success, right? I don't expect it to become something that's like a $1 billion film. If it gets to 700, 800, and with the fact that it's reusing a lot of its sets in kind of the
Yeah.
same way as like the Star Trek films of the 90s did, I think that's gonna be huge for Star Wars. That's just gonna be great first step back financially, right? Like let's get, I know maybe you could have the arguments like it's not creatively ambitious enough, and I wouldn't disagree with you. But if this is a way to like get the hottest property in Star Wars back onto even stronger footing than it was by the end of season three, getting it as close to the peak that it had at the end of season two, yeah, I think that's only going to be best for this like back half essentially of whatever this New Republic era is going to look like with the picture film, with the picture of animation of live action TV shows and whatnot. So I think that's when Luke kinda comes in, and that would allow them to deepfake if they really wanted to, but I think with when deepfake was kinda being used for Book of Boba Fett and being used for, well, it wasn't used for Mandalorian, it was kinda just pure CGI there with some mocap involved, but, I think some of the negativity towards AI in the last year and a half or so, I think is gonna really start pushing back against it being like, "Let's just recreate everything, enhance, smoothen out things, do things like
Mhm.
that," especially if everyone's acknowledging that's happening. It's not like something shady being done behind the actor's back or something. But if you can use it in a way that's meaningful, like maybe just to bring back a Tarkin for like a 5 minute scene max in like Andor season two, good. To use it as like a character that's fully fleshed out, living out in the world and all that. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I think it's just going to be feeling so hollow. And Luke Skywalker is a character, whether you like him or not in canon or EU, he always has a deep, rich soul that you always are like, I want to see what it means for him to carry that on his face, his emotions, despite him being so balanced quite often in his life. When he does get an unbalance, it is really interesting to see them to do that. So I'd like to see him be ferocious and he'll do all these different things. And I don't think AI is quite there yet. And I don't think it's worthwhile to take that away from someone who can really embody the spirit of the character. Now, am I going to say Graham Hamilton or whoever the guy's name was from Book of Boba Fett should be our Luke? No. No, I still want somebody who's a capable actor. I don't want someone who's mostly just been relegated to like doing the sort of stunt double mocap work. If he's got a great resume now and you can make him look a little bit better with prosthetics and makeup and then just use a little bit of deep faking or something, go with that. Sure, that's fine. But I'll push back against people who are like, we have the perfect Luke already. It's like, no, that's a combination of Mark Hamill being on set, what Filoni and Favreau are working on there, the technology of ILM. Yes, obviously Hamilton stepping into the role and being a bit better of a fit than the guy who was in Mando season one because the face model worked even better. But
Yeah.
yeah, I really don't like when I hear people say like, "Oh, you've got everything perfectly there." It's like, no, that's not how acting works. It really isn't. You know, essentially he's like with how the process works on Mandalorian on all these volume-based shows, with post-production comes first and all that. His stuff is just kind of like the stuff that you add in to polish in later. They don't really need him. And when you shoot a proper film, if you have to suddenly have Luke be a big character, do all the post production first, no, that would be terrible. That'd be horrible for a process, especially for most filmmakers who don't do that. So yeah, go for live action recast. If you got to do some things with them included, just to make it look smooth and all that, great. Do whatever. Let him have a role, like just like how Matt Lanter got to play a character in the New Republic and Mandalorian season one. Just do that with these actors. Give them roles that they can be live action actors, but don't suddenly say, "Oh, we're gonna go away from deepfake entirely because we have exactly who we needed from the start." Then it's like, why didn't you do that then?
Well, in the deepfake thing, like, I think it works fine for an action scene, or it works fine for one scene. Like, it was great in Book of Boba Fett. It can
Yeah,
absolutely work. It's just delaying and prolonging the inevitable, right? We have to recast. And I think I've always been an anti recaster just because it just doesn't feel right. But one of the reasons it doesn't feel right with Alden and Han is the fact that it's a one and done, right? It's hard to accept anyone for a one and done. And I think that's where they've already screwed up, is if, the debut of our new Luke Skywalker is in Filoni's movie and it's the first time you ever see him, it'll be really hard to accept whoever it is as Luke Skywalker. But if they play the character for 10 years, just like Ewan McGregor and Alec Guinness, we start to see them as the same person because they played the character for a significant amount of time. So it's one of those things that if you're going to do it, you have to commit. And I don't know if they're ready to commit yet, but I would encourage them to commit because I think these characters are the heart and soul of Star Wars. Yeah, you might not be able to capture that same spirit without Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford. I think, though, to me, the hardest one to recast is Harrison Ford, and they've already done that. And I would say relatively successfully, even though Alden's not my favorite Han Solo, and it's still somebody I don't necessarily see as Han Solo in my head ever. If you gave him 5 movies or he played Han for years, I might have started to think of him as Han, even if it's kind of a different Han. Like, I kind of see Vader and Hayden Christensen's Anakin as 2 different people,
yeah,
but they're the
yeah,
same person. But that's the duality of Anakin, right? That's kind of what you're supposed to see. With Han Solo, it should feel like the same person. With Luke Skywalker, it should feel like the same person. And to me, I feel like Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor are the same person because I grew up with both of them for so many years. And I feel like that's the thing you have to really go for with this is you have to commit. You have to tell stories that span this entire 30-year gap and focus on those characters because they are the heart and soul of Star Wars. No matter what's popular, Mandalorian can be popular, but it's never going to be Star Wars like Luke, Leia, and Han. Even the prequel characters won't be Star Wars like Luke, Leia, and Han. Nobody can be Star Wars like Luke, Leia, and Han. It's what started Star Wars. They were the thing that people fell in love with. And so figuring out what those characters do, it can only help. You can't really get away from it. It has to be a part of your universe if you're tackling this time period. There's no logical reason why Luke, Leia, and Han would be doing nothing while the biggest threat to the galaxy since the Empire shows up. And they're like, oh, well, let's let the Mandalorian and Ezra and Hera tackle it. and we'll just sit back and watch. It's like, it just doesn't make any sense. There's always going to be that specter of the past hanging over it, because it's just the nature of the beast with the time period they've picked to tell. If they wanted to not have to worry about these characters, they should have made a Mandalorian show in the Old Republic or the High Republic, or 200 years after the events of Return of the Jedi. And then you don't have to worry about Luke, Leia, and Han. But if you want to not have to do that, yep, Travis Mitchell, that's what I was going for. Yeah, if you don't want to have to worry about these characters, then you can go in a different time period. But they picked this, they picked their poison, they decided to make the Mandalorian much bigger than it really was ever intended to be. And in doing so, now they have to deal with the consequences of that, and they have to make decisions that are tough. We will see what they do. Hello there, Star Wars Lads fans. Thank you so much for watching this video. This was actually a clip from one of our live streams and Q&As. So if you'd like to join us every single Tuesday around 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, make sure you join us. It'll allow you to ask a question that might be turned into a video. Hopefully you join us. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below all of your thoughts on this clip. Thanks for watching, and we will see you all next time.